Running Sentences presents Ghost Sands Part 5 The Haunting Figures. While Xevian moves to capture a child, other forces began their moves to claim their stake in this world. This story is written and narrated by Michael Henry. It is a work of fiction. Any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, and/or events, and fictional events, characters, businesses, situations, etc., is purely coincidental. Copyright 2024, Michael Henry. All rights reserved. The park was still the same for Henry, staring at his mother, who wasn't paying the least bit of attention to where he had been or had gone, or that he was waving his hands about. There was a feeling of a force field that remained as Xevian slowly got up, still struggling a bit, and as he rubbed his junk to try and get the dull pain to go away, with no result in that. He did manage a few steps towards the kid, who was now turning on him. "What did you do?" "Give you what you wanted. Ow. A way out of here. You wanted something different. Look at me and you will be free." Henry turned, pressed himself against the invisible wall that separated him from his parents, and he shut his eyes as he looked away. "Go away!" "Henry, it is too late. All you have to do is listen to my voice. You already know you want to follow me on our journey to better things, to what you wanted in the first place." Henry had started to go a bit slack, taking in the words with a nod yes, even had a few tentative backward steps towards Xevian. "Where will we go?" "We have a local town to visit to collect some others, and similar to you, and then we will go exactly where you want to go, in front of a TV to watch whatever you want for as long as you want." The blank, unexpressive Henry nodded as the blankness came over him, and his eyes just going dull as he nodded yes. Knowing that he fully had the boy under his control, though he wasn't sure how exactly, Xevian turned and began heading into the woods, with little Henry following along. The two quickly vanished, unnoticed by the mother or the other two children. A search through the house left Laura and Bart with nothing to show for their efforts. They were now up in the attic once again, the last place that they could look, and had saved the last. And to Bart it was making sure his senses weren't off, or that the object had a projection to hide it somewhere. When they had found nothing, it left them up here, looking amongst the stuff. It was like how they'd left it during their last search. "I have a question." "About the object, no doubt, Laura." "Yeah, what happens when you destroy it?" He'd found himself drawn to some old paintings, each with a fancy frame that had been stored away, pointing away from them, so that the images could not be seen on them. There was a small layer of dust over them, which much of this place seemed to have, though here it may seem a little bit deeper, though here it came across a little thinner looking. I guess it's a bit like a sinkhole. It opens up and closes anything around it, and sucks a lot of things downward and then shuts." "And skyward?" "I've never run into something that went into the sky or was run by angels, but I won't say it can't happen." He began pushing the paintings so that he could see what they were. The only light he had was coming from his phone flashlight, which made the whole task a little difficult to pull off. All he could see were some dark, eerie paintings that were lifelike, still ones. "What do you got?" "Paintings. None of them are nice to look at." "What do you mean?" "Oh, they feel gothic and dark. Almost heavy because of the colors and paints used. I'm not sure about them, but they are odd." Laura had made her way over to look at them, and then taking a hold of one of the frames as he flipped past them. "They all look like they're painted children. Who would have such a thing?" "Could have been popular at the time. Might just be weird painting. Just could be weirdness. Well, could these be what we are looking for? It's a bit odd that children go missing in this house and now there are these paintings here. Well, other than looking weird, I don't get the sense that they have a pull or power to them. Maybe it's shut off, or there's no connection right now. I don't know. Do we have anything? No, we don't. It's weird. I can feel it from the outside, but once we're in here, it goes away. Whatever this thing is well guarded and kept away from my sight. So, do we move on then? Unless you can suddenly feel a sensation of this object I can't find. She shook her head no and let paintings drop back to where they were, a cloud of dust kicking up as they moved onward. A busy office below showed a variety of workers clicking away on their keyboards from their cubicles for Byproduct Corporation. The only view this could be from was the boss's office as she stared down at the workers from behind the blinds. It was all going to plan if the meddling demons would simply stay out of it. Fat chance of that, since their fates were so intertwined, and there was also one sitting at her desk patiently waiting for an answer. What is the question again? Why haven't you sped up your work yet? It takes time, and digging dirt to reach another dimension has never been accomplished on this plane. My bosses are asking questions about your work efforts. Yes, they always ask questions, Mr. Porthos. They never spend any time actually doing work of their own, and it's all up to me to do it for them. And it's all questions about how we work. You made promises, they want those kept. She finally turned around to look at the tall, lanky, snake-skinned person sitting in her chair. His eyes glowed and darted about, taking in the environment, which seemed to make him sit uncomfortably. I am keeping my promises, but your provided workers aren't as good as they were advertised to be. This is not our fault, Miss Cruller. You asked for workers, we gave them to you. I only asked for them since I might manage to do what humans cannot on this plane, break through to the other realms. It's why you take humans from time to time, right? She moved around towards a little side desk off to the side wall that had a few drinks on it. There was still a clear view down onto the workspace below, as long as she moved the blinds a bit. Yes, well, these things are complicated. I know, and it doesn't help when you come to me demanding answers every few days. What does your type even expect? Completions of contracts. The contract I signed for this gig gave me 10 years. It's only been 2 so far. What is the rush? Unexpected arrivals and discussions of adversaries. You don't want to mess about with this stuff. Of course I don't. I want to get along with my work and get it done. But you demons think that isn't such a grand thing to have happen if you keep interrupting me. If you will please, leave me in peace. She turned from her drinks desk to look at Porthos, but he had vanished. With a sigh, she downed the stiff drink she'd made for herself, and then went back to staring at her workers below for a moment. And then, after seeing that they were just doing what they were supposed to be doing, went to her desk to pick up the phone. If there was an adversary out there opposing them, then it would pay to be cautious. With the phone in her hand, she called down to the lobby. Security, this is Cruller up on the 4th floor. Yes, miss? I've been informed that there are threats against my workers. I want you to be extra careful about who you let into the building. Do you understand? You share the building with several officers, ma'am. We can't just willy-nilly do what you want. And I pay for the building. Don't question me and my reasonings, or I will find someone else who will do their job. Yes, miss. She placed the phone gently back into its place and went back to staring at her workers. This adversary she didn't much care about. No, her worry was about the demons continually coming here and interrupting. Why? On the whole, she told herself she needed to be much more careful and perhaps set up a few wards against these unwanted visitors and demons, even if it pissed them off a little bit. Having spent much of the morning accomplishing nothing and not leaving her motel room, Ralph and Judy's body sat on the bed. She wanted to go somewhere, but had no idea where to go, and walking about seemed like a bad idea. This area was quite spread out in its land, and with houses and businesses rarely too near one another. The only thing that was saving the sanity of this creature at the moment was that there was a knocking on the door. At first, Ralph had decided to ignore it, but then a voice came through the door. "Ma'am, Miss Judy Abbott?" "Yes, what is it, and who is it?" "Oh, it's the kindly police officer from last night. The one who dropped you off here. Officer Douglas is my name, in case you forgot." "And what is it you want?" To talk and make sure that you're alright. I've had a few questions about some stuff, if that is okay. Can you answer a few things, please?" "Like what?" How Trusty came to be at your house last night." "My husband, Abbott, invited him over for dinner. We got home, and I went upstairs to get changed and to deal with some things. When I came back down, I found what I found." Well, could you please open the door, please? I'd rather talk face to face." The last thing Ralph wanted right now was to open the door and have to talk. He suspected that something was up with this officer. A stinking was in the air that was coming from the door, of the stench of a liar that could be picked up easily enough. To open the door was to invite trouble. The problem was he couldn't exactly leave it closed either. But there was a chance that this could turn out useful as he went towards it to decide to open it. "Is there a particular reason for these questions?" Yes, your phone, ma'am." A memory shot through to Judy about Abbott requesting his wife to come downstairs to film the exorcism. He wondered if there was a way out of answering that as he opened the door to the serious-looking cop on the other side. Officer Douglas stepped in without waiting for permission and closed the door firmly behind him. "What do you have to say about that recording on your phone?" "I don't remember it. Everything is such a jumble for the last night or so. However long it's been crazy. What if we take a seat on the bed, and best to think it over, okay?" Ralph moved Judy's body back towards the bed and sat upon it. When he was firmly comfortable, he crossed his legs and looked over to the cop as he tapped on the bed to signal he should sit beside him. Come, we can have our chat." There was a moment's hesitation, followed by Douglas moving over towards it to sit down. Ralph tried to make Judy give an alluring sort of look, which was met with a seedy grin from the officer. "Well, if you could tell me about the night, please." "Oh, fine. We found Trusty by the side of the road at the grocery store. My husband picked him up and promised him dinner if he could talk to him. And when we got home, I went upstairs, and then was called downstairs by my husband. It was about something. It was all sort of a blur, and I can't remember it exactly." "That's all you know?" Offering a grin, Ralph made Judy lean against him, staring deep into the officer's eyes. Their gaze met and linked together as Ralph stared harder and harder to begin pushing his will into the mind of Douglas. A blank expression began spreading over the officer. He stopped staring and just sort of had his head nod downward. "Are you feeling okay, officer? Is something wrong?" Just fine." "Good. Well, I do happen to need your help, running down some things. Strangers who have been in the area, and maybe they were part of all of this. Have you happened to see any of them?" "Oh, well, there was a weird woman who came to the police station the other day. She was talking about an old haunted house, so I only heard about it through other officers." "You didn't see her, then?" "Only got the name of Laura, I think." "And can we use your little computer in your car to find this person?" "That's a rather vague search term. I guess we can try and see what's out there." Good, excellent. I need to start somewhere. So come on, let's go out to your car and see where this Laura is hiding. She might be the one responsible for all of this horrible, horrible event. Book had come out of the mine cave, tired looking, and he wanted to get as far away from all of this as possible. The work of the children was steadily continuing now that they'd gotten back to it. The whole thing was a tiring act. Watching over these little things was an exhausting one, and he didn't like it one bit. The sands and winds had also picked up lately, covering things with a grey-red mist that never seemed to want to stop or go away. It didn't blot out the sun or the air, but made things hard to keep track of. Book wandered further out onto the mining grounds, looking and shading his eyes, and almost ran into a figure, but jumped out of the way at the last moment. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" He found himself looking a bit upwards, which was unusual in this plane of existence. "The keeper of peace and one who circles all existence." "A fine answer. I also ask you again, please put it in plain, common demon for me." "I am the one who can help you sort out your troubles. But your troubles will only come back to you 2 times stronger. Do you wish to risk it?" With a hard look, Book tried to see through the whipping grains of sand. All that was there was a dark, shadowy figure that wasn't clear and always felt like it was on the edge of disappearing and reappearing at the same time. There was a certain calmness to everything around it that made him trust it. That was an odd feeling for a demon. "Who are you?" "All things in one, a repeating cycle of all things." "Oh, the stupid infinity demon angel creature thing you are." "Known as Ouroboros, yes. I'm here to help you find your answers." "You mean to the one working against Malphas?" "If that is what you seek." "What will it cost me, though?" He picked up the slightest nod from the creature despite the storm of sand blowing about them. "What is the cost?" "You will know when the time comes. Do you agree to my terms?" "Not much choice if I want to keep myself together in all of this and away from Malphas." "Good. Find the caves of the lost souls 3 clicks from here. You will strive through the broken entrance to seek your answers." The storm picked up and faded everything from sight for a second, and then in all of this rush of dust and dirt and sand, it just died away. When it was all gone, Book found himself standing alone, with the children nearby hard at work clearing sand in their usual fashion of passing a bucket up and down the mine. It was as if none of that had actually happened. Sitting in the cop car, Ralph typed away at the computer while the officer sat next to him. The laptop was searching hard through the database after database for the name Laura. There were a lot of results returned, but none of them looked to be helpful so far. Officer, can you remember anything about this lady?" "Well, she had some paperwork signed by the state governor, and I think a business address on the card or something." "The business? What was that called?" "I don't know. No idea, sorry." Book punched the officer in the shoulder with Judy's hand, then did it again to make sure he had the full attention of the officer. It wasn't necessary, then he knew, but it felt good. "Call your people and see what they know. Tell them that it might be wrapped up in the incident from last night, as I was saying, but only if they start asking questions." The blank stare that came back did not inspire confidence, but the officer did begin reaching for their CB radio. "This is Officer Douglas in Car 5. I have a request for information regarding a visitor to the police station the other day. A woman named Laura, and she left a business card of some sort, right?" "Oh, roger. Car 5, it will be a little bit while we check in on those details. In the meantime, are you bringing that lady in for questioning?" "Roger, dispatch." He then put the mic back into its spot and looked over to Judy. What do you wish to do, miss? Well, I guess we can go to the station, of course. It will make things much easier to find the information there. So hurry. The drive to find what Bart was looking for wasn't entirely hard, as the building was the biggest in town. The company in the fanciest-looking building in the town of Blackmark was a 4-story structure that stood out like a sore thumb. It was actually a medium-sized place, with a few businesses that kept things looking like they were trending upwards for this town. This, despite the history of this town trending actually downwards and sideways, living off of its past history and just trying to survive on that. Bart had gone into the lobby of the building and then up to the desk that security had a clamp down on. 3 guards stood menacingly behind that desk, and then behind them stood a big board with the names of several businesses on it. The most prominent of it, which called itself By Product Corp, right at the top of it all. Bart was now at the desk and was smiling. Good afternoon. What's your business here? Inquiring minds want to know things. If you don't have business here, I must ask you to leave. Of course. In a mere second I will be gone, but I wanted to just get the size of you and see who you work for. I hope that is all right. The 2 other guards had begun coming around from the desk, but didn't get far. With a smile, Bart waved goodbye and beat a hasty retreat back to the door. He kept an eye on them to see if they would follow, which they actually didn't do, though, as he stored that little fact in his mind and went outside. A short walk away, Bart met up with Laura at the local little park, a place that was barely spanned a block, but had more than enough benches to keep most homeless people in the area a place to sleep for a little while. There had been no anti-homeless methods put on these benches, at least yet. There were a few people around, but not many, and Laura had found an empty bench to sit down on and was looking around as he came up. What was all that about, and why was I told not to go in? Demon stuff, don't worry about it. You would probably merely distract me from casing the place. And, it's easier if they don't have a read on you just yet. They like to know things, and once they get you in their sight, well, then they know things. And anyway, there are definitely creatures there, but I'm not sure which side they're working for. Probably their own, if I had to guess. How would I have been a distraction? You would have wanted to talk to security and try to actually get past them. I had no interest in going into that office at that moment. That we can do tonight. Why would we go in there? Well, they have a connection to this plane of existence somewhere in this upper offices, and if I can find that, I might be able to use it to hone in on the one in our little haunted house. Now you have my interest that you've said that. Good. Shall we plan for the night, then? She rose from the park bench with a nod, and they began to stroll towards the exit of this place. And they had only made it a bit before a man, homeless one, looking like he only had tatters of clothes, threw himself before them. Praise the Lord and all up high. They tried to move around him, ignoring him, but the man took a few steps back. Listen to me and repent. We have already repented and are on our way to do good, sir. The man pointed towards Bart with a sneer. This one is not. No, I'm not, nor will I ever. I have nothing to repent for. I work for whoever holds my contract. Can't do bad or good without them. Currently, that is on the side that wants to get rid of demons in this world, so I think I'm doing good. But repenting isn't going to do much good when I'm already busy trying to do such things. The surly, stinky eye squinted towards Bart with an air of not believing him. If you don't listen to me, your time will be short. Bart paused and looked at the man, who suddenly didn't look as surly and dirty as he once had. Oh, I see. And which side of this whole rotten affair are you on? I play all sides the same as you, Bart. Well, what do you want then? We're here to see who's trying to cross over and using that area that probably shouldn't be. This figure that had stopped them now stood up straight and presented the figure of a man who was rather imposing. What can we do for you? Are you warning us off of something here? Is that a problem? Are you an angel? A demon? What are you? Heavens, no. Feel free to run and cause mayhem amongst the creatures trying to cross over here. I'm here to warn you, you haven't much time. And why would you do that? They know you're here. They know that something is wrong. Both sides, I mean. And how would you know this, mister? The tall man shifted to look over at Laura in the most unnatural-looking movement she'd ever seen. I am present at all things. I connect all things. I am what I am. That is a warning to all that things tend to circle around if one isn't looking. So why would you warn us then? I think I know who you are, but just to be on the safe side. There are some who like things the way they are, others not so much, but don't want others overachieving. They've brought me in to make sure that things changed, but don't. No, a change of power of hands, then, to be the ones who succeed, I guess. Yes, they shall probably all come for you in the end. They want what is theirs, and they will have it. In a flash of sunlight, the figure was gone, leaving them standing near the exit of the park. Bart shook his head and signaled that Laura should go ahead of him, and she looked like she had a lot of questions, but he shook his head no. He didn't seem ready to answer them. The trek that Xevian had brought Henry on was a long one. Miles of walking went by until they were by a school. To Xevian, who was aiming for his home with no sense of where that was, it was a welcome break. The walking was taking a toll on his legs, and there was also this calling in the back of his mind. Here was another opportunity to help those poor, lost young souls of ignored children. He signaled for the young follower to stay near the woods as he began to approach a small group of 3 that were away from everyone else in their class. It didn't take much for them to notice him, and he quickly waved a hand towards them, his way of saying hello and to cast that same dome that had captured Henry. Why aren't you 3 with the rest of your playmates? They don't like us. They said we were ugly. We said we wanted to go home, and they started teasing us. Did you tell the adult who was responsible for you? Yes. And what happened? There was a snort from the first one who had spoken. It was ignored, and we were told to go play some games with the others. But no one will play with us. Xevian offered a sympathetic smile to them as they looked at him. They didn't seem bothered by him in the same way that Henry was, so perhaps this might go a bit easier. I have a friend who is looking for people to play with. He really wants to watch some TV and to play with others. Is that something that you 3 would like? The look of mistrust and uncertainty that had been vacant now made its appearance in these kids. In return, Xevian pointed back towards the woods, where Henry stood just off in the distance. Do you see him? He wants to play, but we can only make that happen if you come along with us. I don't know. It's okay, follow me, and you will gain a friend to play with who won't make fun of you, and will do whatever it is you want to do. It will be great fun. Before they could respond, Xevian had waved his hand in front of them, and this caused the bright eyes of these kids to darken into a dull, faded color. Where are we going to play? My home. You will love it. It has plenty of toys and things to play with. Come with me, and we shall go right to them right away. The 3 nodded as he stood up and began making his way back towards the woods, soon disappearing from sight as the adult who was looking after these kids began counting numbers. Satisfied that they'd counted correctly, the group of children who'd been playing, minus the 3, all began marching away. although there were a few kids looking around nervously like they realized something was wrong. Ralph, as Judy, had answered what questions she could about the previous events of the night, all while sitting in the police station examination room with the sheriff and Officer Douglas with her. Of course, he offered little in the way of actual information, and the police seemed not to buy that that's all he knew. The fact that something strange and potentially supernatural had been dropped into their laps was not sitting well. It did remind them of their past. Officer Douglas had stayed by her side, quietly waiting for orders as the sheriff went in and out a bunch of times. The whole thing, though, was weighing on him, since it was eating into what time Ralph had to find the ones causing problems for Malphas. The sheriff had come in one more time, this time with a file and a stern look. Before we continue on with the questions, Sheriff, I wanted to know about the lady who came in the other day. Laura dropped a business card maybe and said she worked with the governor or something. The stern look shifted from Judy to Douglas from the sheriff. And we don't talk about business in front of those that we have to question. You know that, Douglas. But it might be related to what happened last night. And I have a right to know what happened in my home last night, do I not? She does have a point, Sheriff. We can at least give her a hint about stuff. No, we cannot, as it is an open investigation. What's wrong with you today, Douglas? Did this newly widowed lady next to you pussy whip you about you that bad or something? Fearing that he would lose control over Douglas, he shut the officer up from saying anything more with a whisper from his mind, with a glance at him. It passed by unnoticed by the sheriff, who sat down at the table before them. We have some footage from your phone, miss, we would like you to see. Yes, you told me many times, and you haven't showed it to me yet, though. Am I actually allowed to see it? Yes, I want you to see it, to see if you might remember something more or offer a better explanation for what happened. I can only tell you what I remember, which is not much. There was a tablet that was passed over, that was produced from amongst the things that the sheriff had been holding, and it was placed on the table and pushed across to Ralph, allowing him to take a look. It played out the night's events, with Judy coming in to record everything, and then the flash of light. It is very disturbing to watch, sir, but I don't remember any of it. I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't. A sense of mistrust in both his voice and the way he looked meant that things weren't going to be simple. There was no magic that worked well on removing doubt from a person, more along the lines of illusions, but to risk it or not. Well, as far as I can see, though, I've done nothing wrong other than not remembering what has happened. How have I committed a crime? Have I committed a crime? No, right now you haven't, but you are a leading suspect in the death of 2 people. Because of a flash of light. It happened so fast, and both of my hands appeared to be busy with a phone. What could little old me accomplish in that time? There was a growing frown on the sheriff's face as he sat back. Ralph made sure to play the video a few more times, if only for the theater of it and to watch what happened. Make it look like there should be something pressing on her memory when there really wasn't anything at all. We will be releasing you shortly, I suppose, and aren't charging you with anything at the moment. You suspect that I'm involved in some way. That is very rude of you. I'm sure the next thing you will tell me is that this officer will keep an eye on me as if I needed such a thing. You're free to go. The way he looked at her, a glare of frustration and a bit of creepy I'm going to get you glare, gave Ralph all the satisfaction he needed. There were, he was finding out, advantages to having a womanly body, and Ralph made Judy's body stand up with a slight frown and move towards the door to leave, after giving the briefest of glimpse at a bit of cleavage. You will tell me if you find out any more information of what has happened to my husband, correct? If we find information that will help us crack the case, then yes, I suppose we will. But then you will probably be arrested for it. I see. You still think you can make this about me. Well, whenever you can, or whenever your officers can, I do need a ride back to the hotel. Any free officer will do, thank you, unless I'm to just be returned to my home that's still a crime scene. You cannot return home yet. I'll have another officer show you back to the motel. Now it was the turn of the sheriff to rise from the chair, while Douglas remained seated. In a moment they were out there, while the officer remained sitting in his chair, lost to all time. In the hallway, though, Sheriff Franks stopped her once again. Did you do something to my officer? Oh no, of course not. How could I? I've been searching my memories up and down upon entering here, and I've left everything I own in my house. I have nothing, and it's been so much. What do you expect to have me accomplish in this single night of something happening? Maybe something supernatural or some such craziness. Judy offered an apologetic smile and then moved towards the exits. Book found himself back in the cave he'd been trying to avoid, Malphas's massive side cavern, what he called home. It was the usual dark place with a bit of wetness now. That was a bit unusual, but it would have to do, since it wasn't the reason he was here. Book was busy doing nothing but waiting and hoping his demon overlord was about to show up. The echoes of the cavern, though, made it feel all too empty. Malphas, can we talk? There was a sudden sound of scratches along the wall, which was hard to place exactly where it was coming from. It was, though, unnervingly everywhere at once. What do you want, Book? I thought I told you to go find who has betrayed me. I'm doing that, but I wanted to ask a question first. Oh, what is it? Who are your enemies that would do this? I think we both know if a demon sees a chance, they will take it. Of course, which of course leads to the next question, which I think you already know what I want to know. The scurrying scratches increased as the large shape that was supposed to be bird-like, Malphas, emerged from the darkness. It was only his face, a small thing that didn't seem to fit the rest of him, that emerged from it, though. You think I'm involved with this? Why would I? Well, it's as simple. You want to get through the barrier of existence into a new realm, and you're going to use whatever you can in front of you. The shape of the slug creature loomed further out of the darkness towards him. It mostly remained hidden in the shadows, though. I have no need for wasting my energy on that. I would just do it. Now, have you found anything or not? Well, yes. Suspicion in all things about this place. Years of work and no progress, despite having all that time. I did not have a way of distributing the sands to the other side. Without that, progress crawls to a slow stop. You know that, though you have commanded this mine for 10 years now. And the previous foremen, many of them suddenly vanishing, perhaps when they came to ask questions. Oh, they still live. They are demons after all, working some other place. Yet, strangely, you seem to have their powers now. I do not. Well, worry not. I don't care much if you do that or not. If, however, you are sending me on a wild chase, then we will have some very heavy problems. Book waited for the shock and anger from the creature to throw him back out of the room. It took a moment to realize that none was about to hit him, and he eyed the creature, which had slunk away to hiding in the darkness. This was an unusual thing to see, and to have to deal with. There would be some repercussions now or later if he didn't leave now, so he did not wait. End of part 5 of Ghost Sands. Thank you for listening.